going to be showing you how to contour cut with your Vinyl Systems cutter, and to help us share that point, we're going to be using Siser EasySubli. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like everybody's joined by now. Again, if this is your first webinar, welcome. I'm excited to show you guys some cool stuff. So this is SignMaster. I have the Pro Edition, which if you have the SignMaster cutter, behind me you see right here, if you're still looking at my screen, you see I have my Vinyl Systems Edge vinyl cutter. Very excited to be using that today. And we're going to have some fun with it. But before we can even get to send anything to the cutter, we got to get it into SignMaster Pro. So you can see there's a couple different tools here. We're in SignMaster Pro. So what I'm going to do, there's a couple ways to import an image. You see here I have like I think I call it Finder because I use a Mac. I don't know what they call it in Windows. But I have my file right here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag it over. And you'll see how it now has this highlighted thing. Just going to click that, and that's going to import it into my space. Now, one thing that is important to double check is this, I believe it defaults to 8.5 by 11. Of course, you could change the size of your workspace to be whatever you want it to be. You don't have to necessarily have it in an 8.5 by 11, but doing so, sizing it up to 8.5 by 11, it helps you just keep things proportional and in size, and it helps you make sure that everything's actually going to fit when you when you send it to print, I should say. Sorry. So I'm doing this the hard way. There's a little tiny corner that you can drag over. Oh, here. Oh, duh. Really quick, right here. I don't even know I went all the way over there. Just click letter, and you can do 8.5. 8.5 and hit enter, and then type in 11 and hit enter. There we go. All right. So I've imported this PNG graphic. Stand by me. Very cool. It has that like Instagram purple and orange gradient. This is not something that you could do with vinyl. So when we're using heat transfer vinyl, you can't really get gradients. If this was all orange, I could probably just do the orange layer first, then the black layer, black layer first, then orange. So you could layer it, but getting this cool gradient design is something that you just can't do with regular heat transfer vinyl. Now, if we wanted to sublimate this, cool, except you can't sublimate this onto a black t-shirt. You can't put this on a dark t-shirt because, as we all know, sublimation only works for white or very light colored garments. So what do you do if you want this image on a dark t-shirt? And you have a sublimation printer, you're gonna print it out onto a printable heat transfer vinyl like Siser EasySubli. Now, this is just one application for the contour cutting. And real quick, what contour cutting means is you print something out on a piece of paper, and then your vinyl cutter cuts perfectly and precisely around it. So you don't have to go with scissors or an X-Acto knife. And that can be helpful for heat transfer paper or even other just print and cut projects that don't even have to do with heat transfer. The term contour cutting or print and cut, they're used interchangeably. So you could say either one and it means the same thing. So I've imported my PNG, this Stand By Me, right? And again, I like this graph because it has this cool gradient over the text. If I wanted it to be just two solid colors, I would have left it. I would just cut it in vinyl. But because I want to print it special, that's what I'm going to do. And because I want to show you guys how to contour cut, I'm also going to use this. So to contour cut is really simple. Now I am going to size this to be a little bit bigger, try to take up as much space as possible. You do have to leave a little bit of margin on the side for the contour marks. It all has to fit when you print it. And EasySubli, instead of being 8.5 by 11, actually, that's a good point. EasySubli is 8.4. So just a little bit less space. I almost forgot that. So I'm going to give it like a moderate size and just put it in there. Now, if you're using different paper, if you're using like 11 by 17 heat transfer paper, well, just change it to match your size and then you can have bigger graphics. But this is going to work for what we have today. So I'm going to click on my graphic. And here's what I love about SignMaster is see this little apple up here on the top? Click on that and contour cut wizard. So really quick, you see how this contour mark is hanging off the edge of the paper. it's not going to print if we do that. So let's drag it over here to where everything fits. And then also the contour marks are a little far away. I'm gonna, if you see how it says mark position, that's gonna make it a little bit closer to my print. And then another thing you can do, if that's a little too close, maybe we'll just do a custom. Instead of 0.25, we'll make it 0.35, hit enter. There we go. And I could position it to where it's nice and centered on there. Now there's a couple options that you're gonna see here. We do want it to print direct. Unless you want to save it to print later, you could save the file. You could print it as a PDF or save as PDF, and it'll just save it. And that way you can come back. You can just send them to print later on, and they'll be ready to cut later. You'll notice I do have, because I am printing through EasySubli, I'm printing sublimation. So I'm going to send it to Sawgrass Print Manager. Too many printers listed here. Sawgrass Print Manager is what I'm going to use. Now, if you're contour cutting with a different printer, well, you just select your printer right there. You're going to select your printer, source options. So all this, right? The defaults are actually really good, so I don't really mess with that too much. Okay, and so now what we're going to do, so now this is all good. I have my cutter selected. It's on automatic arms. Arms is just I believe it's auto registration. I forget what the MS stands for. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and build our contour, because look, if I view the print, it's going to show me the print, and if I put view cut only, there's nothing to cut because this is a PNG. This is not a vector graphic, so the cutter doesn't know exactly what it's cutting yet, and that's why we're going to right here. You see where it says build. We're going to build our contour cut. It says images detected. Do I wish to include their auto trace contours? Sure. Yes, that'll make things very easy for me. So now we're in preview settings. I can click trace. And it's automatic. The defaults are actually really good. And so you can see here, if I'm going to adjust the opacity, right? So those blue lines are where it's going to cut. And then if I turn the opacity all the way down, it's just going to show you my image. So you want to go to like a nice balance to where you could, and if you want to take a closer look, hit the plus sign. Now, because it's not a vector, it's not going to be 1,000%. The only way to get 1,000% accuracy on cutting is if you have a vector graphic. But this is not a vector, so we're going to make do with what we have. You can adjust the smoothing on here, click rebuild. So there are some settings. So now it's getting a little bit closer to the edge, which is cool. Minimum size, I don't even know what that button does. You do want to keep holes. I don't know, let's undo the smooth. Let's rebuild. Let's see what's going on here. So you can adjust your settings to get them as good as you like. I'm going to go ahead and apply these. That's pretty darn good for me. Now, another thing you can do is you can do outline. If you wanted to cut a little bit, outside of your graphic, like give you a little bit of extra border, you could do that. What I like to do actually is I like to do a negative outline, and I don't think zoom in, yes. Here's why I like to do a negative outline, because it'll cut a little bit inside. So now I don't need a negative 0.5. I actually need like a negative 0.07, I think. Let's try that. There we go. So that's a little bit too much. So let's try, and you can fool around with your settings to see what you like. I think I like a negative 0.125. Just click on, there we go. So if you zoom in really close, you see it's just barely, and I'm gonna go like really close. You see it's actually going to cut on the inside of my graphic. Round it up. Let's maybe try 0.2. There we go. So it's going to cut, the blue line is where it's going to cut. It's going to cut on the inside of my graphic ever so slightly. I prefer it that way, and in fact, to be safe, I'm actually going to go up to negative 0.3. And all these numbers mean is how, when it goes, the negative outline means that's how much it's going to cut inside my graphic. So if it's if it cuts on the outside, then you're going to get some white on there, and that doesn't really look cool when you have that white border. I'd rather it cut a little bit on the inside, and and be nice like that. Again, there's lots of cool settings that are going to help you. We're going to apply this. I want sharp corners. There we go. There's lots of things you could do to customize this to get your cuts to be perfect. And you definitely want to give yourself time to practice. So if you're just getting into this, buy a couple extra sheets. You do want to practice, you do want to test it out. And now if I zoom in, there we go. So now it's going to cut on the inside. Everything's going to look dope. I'm going to accept this. And now if I view the print and cut, if I view the cut only, you see it's going to cut out my graphic, which is cool. View the print, that's how it's going to look. And this is ready to send to my printer now. Now this process is taking a little while, but only because I'm explaining it and I'm walking you through. Once you have a little bit of experience, a little practice, you're going to zoom through this. So it's not going to be as long and tedious as what you're seeing today here on our tutorial. It's going to be actually really easy. So now I'm going to send it to print. Anyway, so I have my Sawgrass Print Manager selected because we are going to be sending this to my Sawgrass SG500. So I'm going to send it to print. The mark position may be too close to the artwork. You know what? It's a risk I'm willing to take. I haven't cut with this in a long time. So yes, and so let's give it a second. And of course, when you have EasySubli selected, you'll have different ones. I'm going to print for polyester. And I'm going to print for, actually TruePic should be, these are just kind of like just very generic settings. Here's one thing you must fix. You do not mirror when using EasySubli. That'll ruin everything. Your cutter won't cut it right. So do not mirror it. It has to print true. And then we just load up our cutter, load up our printer. EasySubli, by the way, has two sides. There's a kind of more glossy side, and then there's a really textured side down in your printer. There we go. And it's ready to roll. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit print. And this should be up in a few seconds. There we go. Now the colors don't look that hot because it just came from our printer. So the colors are a little faint, but those of you guys who know, you know that EasySubli, or just sublimation ink in general, it gets its color when you heat it up. And so I have this sheet here on the lower platen, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to slide it in, and you don't actually press it. What you do is you just lower the heat press to where you're within about an inch or two of it, and we're just going to count down for about 30 seconds. Now my heat press, this isn't going to trigger my timer. For some of your presses, it will trigger the timer. So if that's the case, you can just set your press to like 30 seconds or whatever. Me, I can kind of see my watch here. I got about 11 seconds left to go or so. You're just going to hold it there. And this is going to help cure the ink. It's going to help warm up the ink. Because again, remember with sublimation ink, those colors are activated by the heat. And because EasySubli is it's an easy product, you're only going to heat press it at 311 degrees for about 10 to 15 seconds. And you may notice that your colors are getting a little bit darker. That's actually the goal there. So now we're going to go on over back to our cutter. We already printed it, so I'm going to go ahead and hit skip. Now here's another thing. If you save your original as a PDF and you print a bunch and store them or whatever, when you come back to this point, you can skip the print part and you can just hit cut. So we're going to cut. It's going to open up the vinyl spooler, which really is just like a preview section of what's going to happen. So this is going to pop up on your screen. It's going to say, please position the cutter at the start point and reset the origin. And so you see here how it's upside down in the cutter. That's exactly the same way you should orient it. So the way it's set up is the top left corner of my print is now the bottom right corner. So I want to load it in the way it shows on the screen. So to do that, let's bring my cutter back over here. There we go. To do this, you're going to want to raise the bars on these, insert it here, and then I'm going to move this. Oh, hold on. The offline button, let's just get that out of the way real quick. And I want my roller to be right about here. Now, when using Vinyl Systems cutters, or the Edge in particular, the rollers do have to be on rolling, right? The rollers have to be underneath these little marks right here. I'm just going to widen this up a little bit. Now, ideally we'd be using a cutting mat, but I'm just kind of showing you the process here, just because that computer crash set us a little bit back on time. You're gonna line it up here according to the marks. You're gonna lower these, and now using these arrows and the up, I'm gonna position the blade. Oh, I'll need a blade. There we go. As you see on the screen there, I'm gonna position the blade right over that corner mark. We need to make sure that it is loaded straight. There we go. Let's get this over a little bit. There we go. And then I'm gonna hit the origin button to set. Origin means where it's gonna start cutting from. And there's something somewhere. I got ink all over my hands. All right. So here we go. Now we're doing it. We're gonna hit next. So you can see the laser is reading these marks, which is super cool in my opinion. So it read the marks. Marks detected okay. And then now we see this right here. It says proceed with cutting. We're gonna click yes, and this is the vinyl spooler window. So you see it's cutting right around our graphic. And here's the thing, I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. I probably need to do run a calibration on my vinyl cutter, because if you'll notice, the cuts are just slightly off, but it's perfectly off though. So the cut has shifted, and this may be the case over time. You may need to calibrate your vinyl cutter. So the cut has shifted a little bit over to the, it looks like it has like on the x-axis, it's over by, I would say, a couple millimeters. And then I don't think there's anything off on the y-axis. So all I would do is you just go in really quick to your vinyl spooler, and then you can just adjust the x-axis. So it is perfect. But because we have a show to do, I'm not gonna waste your time on that. We're gonna go ahead and mask this puppy. Here's how it goes. So I have my print here, and you know what? I probably should have used the right print setting. I oversaturated this with ink, and you can see that I probably should have just taken my time to use the EasySubli setting, because there's just a lot of ink on this, but that's okay. It's still gonna work. So I have my mask right here. Let's get you guys to see that. I have my mask. Right here. Gonna peel it off. This is not sticky. This is the sticky stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start, what I do is I use like the half pipe method. So you just create a little U. Do like this. So that way everything is covered by the mask. Got my Siser squeegee here. And I'm just gonna scrape it. We're gonna do that because you need your transfer to stick to the mask. Now, what's really cool about EasySubli, this is one solid piece. But let's say if my design had a couple different separate pieces, using the mask, it keeps it all together, which is not something you can do with heat transfer paper. So now I'm gonna carefully peel the mask, and oh no, sorry, we do a reverse peel. That's the easiest. There we go. So we're gonna do a reverse peel. So what you do is you flip it over, and then you don't really want to go up like too high. You just kind of want to like roll it away, and that's how you get everything to stick. You can like slap it down a little bit. That's how we have everything to stick on our mask. All right, I know the first versions of the mask were not like 100% amazing, but this mask is actually really good, and you just saw it here. Boom, it's that easy. So now we're gonna take this over to our press. All right, I got my, and I'm probably far from the mic, so I hope you guys can still hear me. I got my t-shirt. Gonna pre-press this really quick here. And then, whoa, oh, I had a T-pad it, so let me adjust my pressure really quick here. I don't really need the T-pad. There we go, it should be good. I'm gonna pre-press this for about 5 seconds. And this is a black shirt. And what did we use to print? You guys saw that we used our sublimation printer. So for everybody who wants to use their sublimation printers to print on dark garments, well, this is it. I'm going to put that there, just like I would a regular. At this point, you're treating it just like you would any other heat transfer vinyl. I'm gonna get some parchment paper because everybody steals my non-stick sheets, my Teflon sheets. Slide this back in, and then EasySubli, we're at 311 degrees. We're gonna go for about 15 seconds. And because there's sublimation ink on there, I actually go a little bit harder. All right, I'll leave it for maybe like 20 seconds. That's not official from Siser. That's just me. It's just your pal Jared. That's just how I roll. 15 seconds. Let me wait about another 5, just because I don't know why. That's just how I do it. All right, there we go. There's the handle. There it is. I'm gonna open this up. Gonna pull it out. Now here's something that you're gonna notice immediately is that the colors are dope. They're a lot darker and a lot more vibrant. And what I should have done is I should have used the EasySubli profile, because what happened was, and again, we're showing everything today. Look how dark the colors are now. Now these colors look dope. But what happened was, since I oversaturated my print by using the wrong printer profile, if you look really close, the lines are not as clean as they should be. All right, that should be super duper clean and beautiful, but instead it's a little blurry just because I used the wrong printer profile. But of course, if you follow our tutorial online, you will select the right printer profile to print for EasySubli with your SubliJet UHD. This is not EasySubli ink. This is SubliJet UHD ink, and it still looks amazing. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all the kind words. Kevin, thank you guys so much. I hope you have an excellent day. I could ramble on all day. Go Dodgers, go Lakers. LA is about to have a double championship year. You heard it here first, folks. All right, you guys know that's really going to do it for me. Thank you so much, and I hope you all have an excellent day. We'll see you.